And so the belief that he developed based off of this experience was that he could either be healthy or feel healthy. And so I said, this conclusion you're drawing is the wrong conclusion, and it's going to kill you. So the lesson that I want to talk about today is it's an important one. And it's one where people will say, there's no one best approach for health. It's not one size fits all. Some people do better with eating meat, for example. So this one is really important because this example is someone that I just worked with this week. This belief could have killed him. And I'm really, really glad that he made the appointment. He vacillated on it because of the issue I'll tell you about, but ultimately went through with it. I'm very glad. So sometimes I'll see this, and I saw this on Instagram last week when I was looking at comments that I tried doing your protocol, I tried being plant-based, but I felt really weak, I felt bad, and then I ate meat and I felt better, so therefore meat's better for me. So this client that I just saw, who I'm really, really glad that I saw him, he had that experience, but here's the exact experience. So what he first said to me was, I felt worse on it and I added meat back and I felt better, so I don't think it's for me. But when we actually talked, the reality was that he had lupus in his kidneys and he was very sick. They gave him the medications, the chemotherapy and everything. And at the same time, he went on my protocol on his own from my books and my free information that I do like this. And what happened was he was doing the medications and the nutrition, and he went into full remission. And the doctor said they'd never seen somebody heal so rapidly before, even with medical treatment. And he was able to get off the medications. His lupus became negative, his kidneys were normal, and he got off his medicine. Sounds like it worked pretty well, right? Now, he stayed in remission for a while. And then he was feeling like he needed more energy. He didn't feel good. He didn't feel like he could do all the workouts and stuff. And so he started adding meat back. And he felt better, and he added more meat back. And then what happened is the lupus came back, and the kidneys are failing again. So he went back on protocol again and started to get better, but again had that feeling of not feeling good energy, and so he added some meat back. But the problem is the lupus is sticking around, the kidneys are still failing. Even though he's still having smoothies, he's also having chicken and fish, and his kidneys are continuing to fail. And so the belief that he developed based off of this experience was that he could either be healthy or feel healthy. And so I said, this conclusion you're drawing is the wrong conclusion, and it's going to kill you. That's the truth of it. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. If his kidneys fail, that's it, right? So at best, he'll be on dialysis and maybe get a kidney transplant. But this isn't a good outcome versus if when he's on my protocol, he can heal completely. So the conclusion is not that I need meat to feel good. It means I'm doing something wrong because on the one hand, this nutrition is healing my body. If you are getting healthier, that is the right path. You should not have to eat something that tanks your kidneys in order to feel good. That's not the right path, right? So the issue is, why is it that even though you're healing, you're not feeling energized? And I found some solutions for him. I mean, one is, as an active person who's working out, he wasn't eating enough, right? People who, are not that active can eat, pound and a half or so of veggies a day, feel perfectly fine, great energy. But people who are physically active, running, weight training, they often need to have 40 ounces or more. I have a guy in my group who's consistently getting 70 ounces of cruciferous a day, but he is like running 5Ks, training at the gym. He's hardcore. So a lot of times what happens is people just don't eat enough, and then they feel weak and they're like, oh, it's because I need meat. And then when they eat meat, they do feel better, not because the meat gave them a nutrition that they were missing. It was because they got more calories in, and that's what they were missing, is they needed to eat more. And so since that also sits around and sits in the stomach, they feel more full, and that feels better. But then again, the health is going downhill. So if something's good for you, it not only will feel better to eat it in the moment, it will create more health. And that's not the case with animal products, especially in kidney failure. Kidneys cannot tolerate added meat. It tanks GFR immediately, puts it right into hyperfiltration. Even for healthy folks, it does that. But at least if your kidney's healthy, it can come back from it. It does go down over time, though. That's why people's kidney function go down over time when they eat meat-based diets. It comes right back up on my protocol, even when they're in their 80s. But if you are in kidney failure, you are just going closer and closer and closer to full kidney failure and dialysis. So not eating enough, not eating often enough is often the problem. So when people feel weak and tired, often they're used to on meat-based diets eating 3 meals a day. But meat sits and putrefies, rots in your gut, and it sits there, so you stay full longer. But plants, your body digests them and moves them along. And so oftentimes people need to eat more often. Herbivores, we eat more, right? You ever see herbivores? They're always munching. They're always chewing, right? That's fine. So that's the other issue, is waiting too long, waiting 4 hours, 5 hours between meals, getting really tired, right? Sometimes people will tell that to me too. They'll go, oh, I'm not full when I have smoothies. And when I ask them, well, are you having enough smoothies? They'll say, oh, well, I am full. But then like 2 hours later, I'm hungry again. I'm like, okay, well, then you have more 2 hours later or 90 minutes later, right? So just getting used to the eating pattern and making sure you're eating enough and often enough, that often will solve the problem. Because again, if the lupus is going away and the kidneys are healing, you are on the right path. We just need to make some adjustments. Sometimes the issue is people start really drinking tons and tons of water because they know that that's healthy on the Goodbye Lupus protocol, but they won't do the salt because they learned somewhere else that salt was bad for them. And then they drop their blood sodium levels and they get all dizzy and woozy and lightheaded. But again, it's not because the protocol is wrong. It's because they're doing something that's not right. They're not doing all the things they need to take care of themselves for their healing process. So the good news is even when people undereat, they still get recovery, especially in kidney issues. Kidneys will get better even if people are under eating, if they're only eating on-plant foods. I know this because this is what I do all day long working with people with kidney failure, right? You might not feel the energy if you have any of these mistakes or others. So the really important thing to understand is there is a best way for humans to eat. Like every species has an optimal diet. Every one of them. Humans have just forgotten ours, all right? Just like that example I've given when if you give a horse a choice between grazing on grass and sugar cubes, it will choose sugar cubes, right? But usually horses don't get sugar cubes often. But if you always gave them the choice between sugar cubes and grass, they would stop eating grass altogether and eventually find it gross and tasteless. And they would die. They would get really sick and die, right? That's what we've done. We've turned our food intake from what we really need, which is not grass, but neighborhood to it, right? Real fruits and vegetables and things. And we've been living on sugar cubes and things that we really shouldn't be putting into our bodies. And so we're used to the high that comes with that too. Eating meat, eating dairy, eating sugar creates dopamine that goes into the brain and lights it up like drugs. It is a drug. And so when you eat a salad, you don't get that dopamine hit. And that also could be part of what people say when they feel different. You don't get a dopamine high from eating a salad, right? Unless you're jogging while you do it or you're eating salad with a friend who makes you laugh. Okay. So getting the adjustment from the correct kind of endorphins that you're supposed to get from food rather than the drugs, right? It's like someone who is a cocaine addict and you say, oh, you need energy? Here's some coffee. They'll look at you like you're crazy, right? Because that's nowhere near the level of energy they're used to getting. But eventually, as they get into recovery, coffee will give them a burst of energy as their mind recovers. So it's very important to be aware of that if you are trying to eat plant-based, if you're trying to hypernourish and you're not feeling good, it doesn't mean that this isn't for you and you should be eating animal products. What it means is you need a bit more help to get it right. So hopefully some of the suggestions I just gave you solve the problem if that's you. And if you need me to help you solve it, or my husband, Thomas Tadlock, he's great at this too. I mean, he created the protocol with me all these years ago. Then get the help you need to get it right. That is the time when you want to get it right. You know, I'm so glad the gentleman I talked to decided to talk to me, even though he was going to push it away, be like, it's not worth it to have good kidneys if I feel like crap. I get that. But we're going to help him feel better. And he already messaged me today that he is feeling better with some of the tips I already gave him. So I'm really glad, and I'm hoping he makes a full recovery again. But if you're struggling to do it, don't throw away a protocol that will help you reverse your disease. Get the help and support you need to get it right so that you can feel better.